Welcome to Writer's Pad. On today's show, we're going to go a slightly different direction, and I've got a guest on who is someone I've known for many years, actually, who started out as a graffiti writer, which he will go on to tell you himself, and has gone through the whole sort of journey of becoming a writer, getting into other things, focusing on different areas, culminating in his latest project, which I'll let him talk to you about himself. So I'd like to introduce Mark from Soulful Creative. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about your origins in terms of how you entered into the graffiti world and the hip hop scene back in the days.
Breakdancing, early 80s, breakdancing explosion, got into that, had my little crew with my best mates from school. We used to go and find cardboard and then take it back to my garage and have a little clubhouse, and practice. And I had literally had a really rubbish belt drive turntable that I would play my electro records on. And I also would have a ghetto blaster, and it was that typical sort of suburban, urban sort of getting into that, hip hop, breakdance culture, and just immersing ourselves in it. And
by any means necessary sort of thing.
Yeah, and it was just getting into the dancing, and a good friend of mine, Alexis, was just amazing. I can remember going to a local breakdancing competition where the prize money was quite significant, and people were coming from quite far away. And we were just outside London, and people from London were coming down, and he was younger, and he burnt them, and I can remember him getting top prize and getting the money, and us legging it out of the venue to get back to the station so he didn't get taxed.
Yeah.
And and it was just I don't know, it's just it was just being part of a culture, because back then, in the 80s, there was so many different cultures going on. Because I had an older sister, she was into her sort of new romantic sort of vibes. She had a boyfriend who was a mod. All right. Which fascinated me, because seeing him turn up on his Vespa and his suits and looking sharp, and that stuck on me before I got into hip hop. It's that identity and that sort of being part of a tribe. And
there's a lot of similarities, I guess, between, I've always thought this myself anyway, between mod culture and the hip hop culture that was just starting to blossom, if you like.
Absolutely. When I was 12 years old, you don't know about the historical aspects of these cultures and subcultures and stuff. But I knew when I, saw that, I was I like that. I think, I just was drawn to the style of it, and it just looked cool. And, and I guess, when you're young and you got, someone you look up to and they're looking sharp and they've got that something special about them, they look different. And people look at them, you notice people look at them different. So when we got into, the breakdancing, when I look at photos of us back then, we weren't wearing anything cool. We were wearing, awful jeans from the market and, crappy trainers, but, because we didn't really know any better, because, you're getting dressed by your parents.
Yeah.
And then the older you slightly get, the more knowledge you get, and you look at things and you start sort of taking in the influences of the culture, and you then know, and you get more accessibility to it, and you then sort of find ways to look cool. Because I can remember, begging my parents to buy me this wicked Kappa tracksuit, and I had a pair of Adidas, I can't remember the names, but the basketball boots were white and blue and red. Ones, yeah. And that was the sort of look. And then obviously, you start looking into getting, you start educating and learning about your Pumas and your shell toes. Mm-hmm. But they were so hard to get hold of, and we made best of what we could, it was like Nike Wimbledons.
Yeah. High-techs.
In high-techs, exactly, and there was an Adidas Century,
Yeah.
which were basically shells without the shell.
Yeah, I had a pair of something like that, yeah.
So we made do with what we could. And I think, you know, from a young age, we're just sort of being really innovative with how to sort of put a look together.
Which is pretty much hip-hop in its essence, isn't it?
Totally. You know, I remember, you know, getting fat laces. They didn't exist.
Yeah.
But we found out, you know, John Lewis up on King's Road.
Okay, yeah.
In the haberdashery, they used to sell the different
did you buy
colours.
the ribbon stuff?
The ribbon stuff. So we used to bunk the train up and then, you know, get to Sloane Square and go in there and buy lengths of these like lace material.
Yeah.
And I can remember, you know, going out with a little paper John Lewis bag and then getting home, ironing it, taping up, sellotape the ends, to then and spending hours just lacing up your trainers.
I can relate to that totally. We were doing the same thing where I was, you know. But yeah. I mean, obviously back then we didn't have the technology that we've got nowadays in terms of the internet and, you know, social media, blah, blah, blah. How did you sort of draw inspiration? Because you weren't in London at that time, am I right in thinking?
No. I was living just outside London, West London. And I think it's pretty much like most people. It's like the Rocksteady crew record covers, which are a huge inspiration.
Yep.
As I was saying, getting into electro, I started collecting records at quite a young age. And the one thing I have to say I got from my sister is that she collected, and she had a big record collection.
Oh, because she was collecting.
She was collecting, you know, her new romantic, new wave, 12 inches, 7 inches and LPs. So I think from that, I sort of then started, like, she's got that collection. I need to have my own collection. And I would then, you know, save up and get the electro, you know, UK Electro 1 and 2, blah, blah, blah. And there was a couple of guys who were 4, 5 years older than us, who were into their hip hop as well. And we looked up to them and we sort of got inspiration from them. And I got friendly with them because they lived quite close to me. And I think it's also because they knew my sister. So there was sort of like
a crossover.
A bit of a crossover. And I can remember Lee was into collecting these records, and he showed me that Jelly Bean cover.
The Jelly Bean Benitez with the piece on the rooftop or whatever.
With the scene piece. And that just absolutely blew my mind, because I think I saw that before Subway Art.
Wow.
What year did Subway Art come out? 84?
84, yeah.
So those sort of couple of years prior to that, we were just getting...
There was stuff about, wasn't there? Definitely stuff about.
Yeah, there were, but it was like, you know, you hear people talk about it, it's like, you know, recording the Rapture, Blondie, and watching, you know, Lee do the painting, and, you know, and the Rocksteady crew, you know, videos and stuff like that. But, you know, then, you know, you started just magpieing stuff and just, you know, and there was, you know, and then like the graffiti element started to really grow. And then I started getting into that by copying, you know, like the Rocksteady crew. And then I remember I had to go to London with my mum to hospital.
Right.
And as for somehow I knew about Subway Art, and I was like, Mum, there's this book. I need to get this book. And she was like, right, you know, if you're good, we'll buy it. And I can remember going to London Bridge and going to the London Bridge W.H. Smith's, and it was in there, and she brought me it, and I was like...
So you're one of the few people that actually bought a copy. Well, your mother did.
My mum did. My mum did, and that's possibly the one and only copy that
was sold.
Was sold, yeah. But and then from that, you know, that just blew my mind, and the little amount of copy in there gave you an insight into the graffiti culture, and I was like, I wasn't a great break dancer. You know, I liked the collaboration, the crew aspect of it, you know, and the style aspect of it. So the graffiti side of things was something that I really sort of honed in on because I was quite creative anyway.
Yeah.
My dad taught me how to do oil painting when I was like 6 years old, and
that's a young age for such a life.
Yeah, but because my dad's he's a builder and he was very creative, and he always used to sit down with me and we used to draw like all the time, and then he got like this oil painting set together, and I did a painting, an oil painting, I think it was of a bird or something, as a leaving present, because when I originally grew up in South East London, and when we moved to just outside West London, I painted an oil painting for my head teacher as a leaving present. Okay. And she didn't believe I did it.
Really?
Yeah, she was like, he hasn't done that. And my dad was like, he has.
He's got the skills.
I mean? You know, and so I was always drawing. So when, like I say, I wasn't the best break dancer. And when I started seeing the graffiti and taking that on board, I sort of like focused in on that. Mm-hmm. And I can remember, I don't have the business mind, you know, it's like when you're, you know, 9, 8, 10 years old,
fun, you're
having fun. But I was actually getting commissions because I used to paint people's names. Okay. With like Airfix paint.
What, just like, is this pre-graffiti painting names, or is this sort of at that time? It's just when it was coming in.
When it was happening, because there was, again, I think it's the influences of my sister, because she was older. They used to paint like Duran Duran on their school bags. Yeah, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's quite cool. So I then started doing that, but I started copying. I can remember doing pieces out of Subway Art. Yeah. On canvas bags, satchels. That was the start of
what was to come.
And you know, and it grew from there. You know, with more commissions with youth clubs, and and then went, you know, quite big time.
Without that technology, it's quite amazing that we were able to kind of like get ourselves out there and, you know, achieve what we did in terms of not having the resources at our feet to promote ourselves and just to be able to travel in.
When we used to get the train back to South East London, I can vividly remember silver tracksides. Okay. And I can remember, you know, getting hold of some Spectra and doing one night, you know, our little crew doing quite a big trackside silver. But there was a fashion in the sort of mid 80s for, when I say silvers, they weren't fills, they were silver outline pieces. Yeah. And that's what we did. And I can remember the piece that our crew was Mad, and it was our initials for everyone who was in it.
Oh, really?
And it said Mad, Devastating, Bad or something. And, you know, it's still there. I'm still in touch with the main graffiti artist from our area, and he actually sent me...
As in he's an older guy?
Yeah, he a guy called Jector, amazing, and I can remember seeing his black book and his sketches and his pieces locally. And there was one that he did in 1985, said Def Jam, and funny enough, I recreated it. He never finished it. He got chased by police. Okay. And it was mind-blowing, and it was on a brick wall, and he painted it in car paint, direct on the brick wall. So literally a couple of months ago, I recreated it at my studio, and did the whole thing with the scroll that he had on it, the background, you know, exact colours. And I sent him a photo, and he was like so chuffed.
Yeah, I bet.
Absolutely so chuffed. And I got him down to the studio the other week to have a little paint.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And he hadn't picked up a spray can for 40 years.
Wow.
No, that's a bit of exaggeration.
Yeah,
35
yeah,
years.
it's getting on that way, don't it?
Yeah.
It must be.
He stopped painting in 86.
Wow. That's when most of us were just sort of finding our feet.
Yeah.
So how did he get on with the paint that we've got nowadays?
He was loving it, you know, and you know, and he hadn't painted, you know, for so long, and he found it hard because you know, if you haven't, you know, painted, because people think it's easy, you know, and when you give a person a spray can and go away, we've all been there. We'd have then seen, you know, struggle and the mess that they make. But it was great to get him out and for him to, and he was so chuffed.
He must have been.
Absolutely chuffed. But, you know, that was local when there was, you know, these little spots. And then when I got older, you know, me and my boys, we would then go up London and then we would search it out like everyone, you know, go to Grove, go down to Brixton. We got friendly with some really cool guys down in Brixton and they would take us, you know, to spots to photograph stuff and, you know, and just go and capture it, you know, and ride the lines, you know, and, you know, the excitement of finding a new piece, you know, and seeing, you know, stuff in the flesh. You know, I've still got all my photos from 86 up to 92.
Wow.
Of, you know, West Ham, Grove, you know, just loads of different spots. You know, the Paddington Waste Ground.
Yeah.
You know, there was some amazing stuff painted there, and you know, and that you know, as a sponge, you just soaked all of that in, and you learnt from that, and
Definitely.
And just sort of, you know, and we took it back and, you know, did our own productions and, you know, and got better. And, you know, and we was literally then started, you know, working as almost like a, you know, as a crew. We were negotiating with councils and youth clubs for budgets.
What sort of year was this?
86, 87. I can remember when we had this big youth club commission and the paint turning up, we were like in heaven, you know, just boxes of bunt, you know, and we were free to, we had a loose brief and stuff and go and paint, and, you know, and we were, you know, it was only sort of got mentioned to me not that long ago that, you know, I've been art directing and project managing from the age of 12.
Yeah.
And when you're that young, you have no idea what that is. You're just doing something collectively to get an outcome that is as best as you can do.
It's like you're your own agent, I suppose, and promoting yourself.
Exactly.
You know, that's what you're doing day in, day out. Makes sense.
Exactly that.
Were you more focused when you were actually writing, lettering? I'd see you more as a sort of letter-based artist, I suppose. But I don't know. I remember some pieces I saw back in the days.
Yeah, no, it's more letters, and I think, you know, the structure of letters and colour, you know, was something that I tried to hone my skills in, and I, you know, with time and you experiment and you get better, and, you know, and I'm really, you know, I look back and, you know, I'm happy with what I did.
Served your time, in terms of, when I say served your time on the streets, as it were.
Yeah, totally. And, you know, did my dues, you know, did what I had to do, what I felt I had to do to become the best artist I could. And, you know, and there was, you know, that transition of, you know, doing things in stages and honing your skills.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then, you know, wouldn't paint a Hall of Fame until I knew I could paint a Hall of Fame and paint over something with something better.
Yeah. Like the unwritten rules that were around at that time.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, and just fine tuning those skills and you know, and doing some really nice productions with the guys, and you know, and doing, you know, traveling, going to Europe, going to Paris, going to Amsterdam, going to New York,
Oh.
you know, meeting people and showing people out stuff. And, you know,
What sort of years were you doing the travelling outside of the country?
I'm pretty certain it was 1990. Because when we flew out, it was February, it was half term, and it was 3 of us. We were 16.
Wow. No adults, just the...
Just the 3 of us. And New York was still rough.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was an experience.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know, but, you know, somehow through the graffiti grapevine, you know, we were told Vulcan works in Forbidden Planet.
Okay.
So obviously we knew what he looked like.
Yeah.
So we wander into Forbidden Planet and we're like, hello, we're from London. And he was sound, you know. He'd said, right, you know, Harlem Hall of Fame, but be careful. Chalfant, he gave us Chalfant's address.
Oh, wow.
You know, we bowled up to Chalfant's address in, I think it was Greenwich Village at the time. Just knocked on his door and he's...
Unannounced?
Unannounced, yeah. Knocked on his door, opened the door, and he's like, you know, because it must happen to him daily.
Yeah.
And he just looked at us like, you know, and we were like, we're from London. And he's like, do you want to look at the photos? And we're like,
Wow.
yeah. And,
Do we?
you know, and yeah, you know, but so many of them have been nicked.
Really?
You know, and certain person was in there literally weeks before from London, a notorious writer, amazing writer, and he'd rinsed it.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
and we're like, you know, this guy was the sort of bane of a lot of people's lives in London.
Okay.
And you fly all the way to New York.
And he's there as well.
And he's sort
And he's
of
done his
like
stuff.
done something, you know, and you're like, oh, give us a break.
Sounds like the same guy that had been to Amsterdam when I went to the paint shop in Amsterdam. Coolman's. Did you ever go to Coolman's?
Possibly.
There was a load of stickers all around around where the paint was, and there was like a load of London ones, and there was a certain renowned West London writer.
That'd be him. Yeah. But you know, it was great, and you know, it's just like in Chalfant's studio, he was letting Ramosi and Lee use his studio. So I've got photos of like their work in finished work and work in production. You know, it's just like...
That must have been mad.
It was mind-blowing. And also we went to the Keith Haring pop shop and we turned up and there's like a Dondi tag on the mailbox outside, and it was just like... it was just mind-blowing, you know, and it was a really great experience.
No doubt.
You know, and then, you know, we got our sneaker fill, you know. I even got a load of paint and I brought it back.
Really?
Know? Yeah, I just put it in my suitcase and it got through okay. So some of that paint got used on some quite special pieces.
Now we know where those funky colours came from,
Yeah.
those of us that know. So, I mean, I guess that, you know, being involved in the graffiti culture, being involved in the hip-hop culture, like my own personal experience, it's kind of like it's a natural progression, or it can be a natural progression to what you later become in life in terms of what you did back then. Like you said about you're promoting yourself, you're your own agent, you know, you're creating your own brand. Did you find that led you to where you are now in terms of your latest projects?
Yeah, totally. Like my journey from starting, you know, getting into the hip hop, graffiti, breakdance culture, then getting totally immersed into the graffiti culture, and then coming out of that, and you know, at that time in the early 90s, you couldn't make a living from graffiti. It was very much frowned upon. So I stopped my sort of illegal painting and basically put that to bed and started thinking about what do I need to do as a career. And I got an apprenticeship in a design company doing design management, and that, you know, and that excited me because it was design. It was doing stuff that was creative, and times were changing. You know, the Apple Mac was taking off big time. with in the graphics industries, and I was basically focusing on learning a new skill set. And you know, and I got on a 3-year apprenticeship with a big reprographic graphic design company, and you know, on my first day, I got Electronic Arts and Activision as my clients to look after.
On your first day?
Yeah, but the thing is that they were startups.
Yeah, I guess back then.
You know, and you know, EA, they had, you know, this relatively small office out near Heathrow, and Activision were literally almost in one, like in a shared office, a room in, you know, and you look at them now, you know, they're huge entities. And it's weird because though I started my sort of graphics career with those guys, I'm now working with the owners of Activision on the projects I'm doing now.
It's like come 360
so it's
almost.
Exactly that. It's just bizarre, and it's almost like you have to go through these stages in this journey to just come back around. And and the older you get, you look at it and you go, "Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense."
Yeah. I think that's kind of like a middle age thing, isn't it? You sort of, everything starts to fall into and make, like you said, it falls into place and it makes sense.
Totally.
Whereas back when we were like 13, 14, didn't have a clue what was going on.
No, and I think, you know, it's like I say, it's like growing up in the 80s and 90s was magical. You know, there was so much going on, you know, and like I say, I think, you know, though I was, you know, into my hip hop, I then, when I got older, I got into my rare groove scene, then the acid jazz, you know, but again, you know, there's all this sort of linkage because through the electro and then into the hip hop, then, you know, with Eric B. Rakim, and then, you know, with that sort of Marley Marl productions, and then the, you know, the sort of the nod back to the old funk and soul records, you know, and you know, and the beauty of like London and its cultural music, cultural richness is that there's such a similarity with New York. And getting older, then you start like looking into things, and you're like, well, you know, punk, you know, the Clash were hanging out with Futura, and he did the first piece, you know, and and Blondie with, you know, Basquiat, and, you know, and Lee and Fab Five Freddy, and, you know, then all that music is happening here, and like I say, it's like my record collection just kept on growing, and, you know, by the early 90s, you know, I was doing, you know, DJing on a regular basis, doing rare groove nights, you know. We had an amazing venue in our local town, and, you know, they used to have an amazing promoter, and we DJ'd for Gwen McRae one night, Des'ree, Gabrielle, I think it was the Outlaw Posse came down one night, and it was just amazing, and there was so much going on because you also had your house rave culture going on, so I was dipping my toe into that, you know, and it was just incredible because like one weekend we'd be going raving, you know, going to the Ministry of Sound or whatever, or going to a warehouse party, you know, or Wednesday night we'd be going to the Iceni for the acid jazz, and you know, there'd be like open mic on the top floor, and, you know, you'll have like guys out of Brand New Heavies, you know, and Snowboy, and then like one night JK turned up and done a couple of tracks freestyling with, and it was just incredible, you know, but it was all being part of cultures, you know, but the music was a link.
It's kind of like the backbone to the culture in a sense, the music, with whatever culture it is, whether it's mod culture, punk culture, goth, whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's also, you know, with the art, it's like you then, the older you get, the more you want to explore things and understand, and you know, you just immerse yourself in it, and you take more and more in. And me as a person, I want to learn about different art styles and where they've come from, and you know, and take elements of those and work with them. And like I was saying with my actual career, I was getting into the graphics, learning Photoshop. You know, back then it was Quark Design.
Yeah.
You know,
new technology.
And I was basically doing a degree but being paid. You know, and I was working with big clients. You know, and those years were amazing. You know, I was doing Apple.
Yeah.
I was looking after Hasbro. I was doing Monopoly.
What were you actually doing for them? Were you reinterpreting their...
We were doing a lot of, for Hasbro, we were putting together a lot of the, helping design the packaging for them.
Right.
And we were doing, you know, like backpacks and stuff like that. And then I literally then wanted to grow from what that company could offer. So I then, after 5 years of being at this company, then got a job as a studio manager for a design company.
Okay.
And then that was literally my life, was, you know, managing design companies, and it's been in different sectors. The first one of the first companies I worked for was retail, and we were doing a lot of work for Boots, Superdrug and stuff like that. And then I got into property, which was dealing with the likes of, you know, big property developers, designing hoardings.
All right.
Then got headhunted and got asked to set up a design company, which was then, we were looking after Krispy Kreme donuts.
Okay.
A little bit of property. Then I got into I was still doing my art when I could. Yeah. It was secondary.
It has to take a back seat though, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I was doing my own paintings, my own, you know, either on canvases or private spots. Yeah. And then I got into doing the gallery side of things and really pushing the art. And you know, and doing some really nice canvas work, abstract stuff, and you know, coming back round to when we got our first commission for Eurostar, for doing the event launch for them, and then soon after that, we got a massive office commission, and that they were a brilliant client. A exhibition design company, moved into a really nice office space, and they wanted something amazing, and approached us, went and saw them. They had a really nice office down in Kingston, and they basically gave us an open brief.
Which is what every artist wants.
Well, you do and you don't. It's because I've gone through that learning and understanding of when you got a brand, and because in my head every company and every product is a brand. It has to have an identity. It needs to be able to communicate that identity and their values and what they're about in a correct way. A lot of people don't do it correctly. A lot of people do it very correctly. The ones that do it very correctly are the ones that people really know. They were like, just paint whatever. And I was like, whoa, we need something to hang this off. Because, I mean, they wanted one massive it snaked the whole way through this office. So it needed to have some structure to it. And so we sat down and I was like, you know, what do you want to be saying? What's your values? Blah, blah, blah. And out of that, and I said to him, you know, you're a design, because they're an exhibition design company. I was like, come on, guys.
You've got to have some ideas, haven't you?
You've got to have some idea to work with. You know, if a client comes to you and go, build us an exhibition stand, you'd be like, what are we building? What is the purpose? What's the messaging? What you're selling? Blah, blah, blah. But, you know, they were really great to work with, and we went away, designed this amazing typographical piece, created a character, and painted this massive, like, flowing mural through the office, and it blew them away. And the character that we designed for them, they loved it so much they actually adopted him as their social media spokesperson. So they actually then took our design, got him 3D modelled.
Oh wow!
And they got a couple of him made, and because they do exhibitions all around the world, so wherever they go, they would take this.
The little logo. It's like a logo in a sense.
There was literally a character, and like having photographed in front of the pyramids or whatever, you know, and it was really, really good for us because it just like helped like firm that we know what we're doing, and you know, and we could create something that was unique. And there, you know, and what we do is we look at a space and we can basically look at it and think how best to work with it,
right,
to get the right visual content into that space to make it look amazing. And I think that comes from the understanding of painting, but also being able to understand branding, and merging the two together is quite special, because you either get branding experts or you get muralists.
Well, they're sort of like two worlds apart
They
normally,
are.
aren't they?
They really are.
You know.
And, you know, like I say, you get those specific areas, but luckily, because I've been in both areas for such a long time,
You can bridge them.
I can bridge them together. And with each project, because I've been painting, I've still got my finger in with lots of artists.
Right.
You know, in the UK, globally, and I'm, you know, and I've got a team of freelancers that come to work on the project. So, dependent on the project, dependent on the budget, dependent on the requirement, I can then build a creative team.
So it's like having a pool of people, I suppose, at your disposal.
Yeah, exactly that. It's a little, you know, cottage industry of talent. You know, very much like the film industry,
Right.
where, you know, when a film gets put into production, they bring everyone in that they need, and they like working with who they know can bring the right attributes to that job. And that's exactly how we go about our projects.
You've been around for long enough to have made those contacts and work out who's like serious and who's perhaps not as serious, and or who hasn't got a mature head on their shoulders in terms of business and whatnot.
As you know, artists can be flaky.
Yeah.
And when you're working in a corporate world, which I do, and, you know, it can be tough, but if you know how to deal with people and you are professional, then, you know, there shouldn't be any issues.
Even that in itself is like, again, it's kind of like a contrast, because, you know, a graffiti writer and the corporate world, they don't kind of like normally coexist in harmony in terms of when you were a young guy doing your bits and pieces, but now you're a mature man, you know, you can use that to your advantage, I guess.
Yeah, totally. And then also it's like, you know, the company, you know, Soulful Creative is a design agency, a design studio. You know, we basically, like, we transform spaces.
Yep.
And we do that through visual communication. And that visual communication can be a painting on a wall, a mural, wallpaper.
Yeah, you're not confined to graffiti, it's a world.
No, we do very little graffiti, because there's so many graffiti companies out there, and, you know, that's great. But what we can bring the graffiti aspect into a project if it's needed.
Yeah.
But I still think what makes our work stand alone to a degree is that we bring that graffiti mentality and aesthetic to it.
Yeah.
You know, and I like, you know, and through my art college, you know, where we were doing projects with mixed media, we do that on our projects, you know. So in certain projects we might mix digital wallpapers with hand painted and vinyl. You know, it's being creative and using the right materials to basically deliver the best visual communication.
I'm thinking back to the hip hop, the essence of hip hop, and how we appropriate things. It's probably you're probably using certain pieces of technology, perhaps others wouldn't even think to use them in a certain way, because you're looking at it from that sort of, you know, that graffiti writer mentality where you can see other ways of doing things.
Yeah, possibly. You know, I think, you know, things, and also things move so quickly. You know, because I can remember when I started getting into design management, a company that I was working for were beta testing large format printers.
Right.
And these things were literally like, the quality was horrendous. You know, it's like dots as big as golf balls, you know, and the quality was appalling. But now the quality is just phenomenal. And I think I've been lucky because I've seen the development of the technology, and I can see what the strengths and weaknesses are of different technologies. So I can then utilise what I feel is the right...
And use it to its potential. Sort of thing.
Exactly, you know, and that's the beauty of what we do, and what I get excited about is pushing boundaries and mixing things up and just doing things differently. And even with a lot of our work is still hand painted,
right? Because
I feel, you know, that with a hand painted piece, one, it's unique, it's a one-off, and two, you also get that energy that's gone into making it actually is stuck in that piece.
Yeah.
With a piece of digital print, it can look a bit soulless.
I always refer to it as the funk. You kind of like, it just does have the funk in whatever it is, whether it's, you know, whatever it is, it's just the funk.
Exactly that, and it's having that, and that comes from that, what we've got within us, from how we've been like brought up and how we've like grown as individuals, and it's that foundation. And you know, and I was saying to you previously about, you know, when we do a project, I just want to burn.
Yeah.
It's about, for me, it's about, you know, long gone are the days of my desire of like burning, you know, walls or whatever. It's now is like burning an office, you know, and you know, we're doing really well. We're doing work across Europe. You know, a good few years ago, we won a design award for best branded environmental design. Okay. You know, and we're getting, you know, some big clients on our books, and you know, and it's great. You know, it's great to be able to do something that I'm passionate about, and that is constantly evolving. Yeah. And every project's different, and it's just nice to be part of, you know, a business. And don't get me wrong, it's bloody hard work.
Yeah, I can imagine.
You know, being a business owner, and especially through the last couple of years, but it's just so nice to look at our work and then go, yeah, we created that from an idea to completion.
Which, bringing it back round 360, is kind of like looking at that finished piece on whatever it was.
Absolutely,
you painted, you know.
Exactly, and that thought process is exactly the same as it was back then, but the way you go about executing it is different. It's different media, different applications, but the overall ethos,
end result is
it's about to burn and to do your best, you know, and we're always striving to do bigger and greater projects. And if I know I've got the capability to do something, I won't say no.
Yeah.
I will say no if I feel uncomfortable. I'm like, that's not for me.
Yeah.
I will say no, but very rarely do we get that opportunity to sort of say no, but we're getting a lot more opportunities to go, we can do that. And it's, so the business has grown from early days of like just doing art as a live art piece to doing a graffiti, typography, mural to, this year we did a box for Virgin at Manchester Arena.
Okay.
The full design and fit out of that, stripping it out, new flooring, new toilet, new kitchen, feature walls, furniture, feature lighting, you name it.
Sounds good.
We've done it, and earlier this year we did a project in Barcelona for a big software company. 73 feature walls across 4 floors.
Wow.
And
presumably you've got pictures, you've got a portfolio.
Yeah, it's just we've been so busy this year. I'm now only we're nearly December, and I'm now putting case studies up from beginning of the year because it's just been so busy. You're just rolling into one job into the other. But it's nice to finish a job, because once you've done a job, you're like you've immersed yourself in it, and you're shattered at the end of it, and you just want to get away from it, just have a breather. And then when you get an opportunity to revisit that in a couple months down the line,
you can appreciate it more.
You so appreciate it so more, and it's great to then get back to the client to ask them for a testimonial and getting their feedback, and it's just a nice thing to do, and it's all about doing our best and making sure that we deliver, and being happy with what we're doing and enjoying what we do, and touch wood, that's how it's been.
So have you got sort of any forthcoming projects or anything out there that we may be able to see, or perhaps we've seen and didn't even realise? Like
I say, a lot of our work is office based. We do restaurants. We did a really great project for a primary school this summer, which was nice because it's nice to do something different. But projects, what have I got coming up? You've got me on that one. I've got some more work for a software company in Soho. I've got a indoor golf, mini golf venue to do in Milton Keynes. But I'm waiting on quite a few people to come back to confirm projects. But to be fair, we've been so busy. So, like over the summer, we were in Barcelona, then in London, and then we had a project in Malmo, Sweden. Right. And it was just so mad, which was great, but it was quite stressful with the work, but also with COVID, travelling. Was just a major headache. There's always stuff to be done. Like I say, that's why we're now getting the case studies done, because we've got some downtime to focus on promoting the business, looking at the work that we've done, and also starting thinking about what projects we would like to get next year, because we're always striving to do different work and exciting work. And it's really funny because when you think about, I want to do some signage and using plywood and laminates, because I like using natural materials where I can, because it's very effective and visually quite pleasing. And I've done 3 in a row, which isn't a bad thing, because if you're good at something, then people come to you for that. But it can be frustrating when people go, oh, you do that as well? And it's well, it's all over the website. If you take your time, you can see that we pretty much do everything. And but it's just slowly, building people's awareness of what you do. And it's no different to being an artist. You've got to just plug yourself and put yourself. you know, and you're branding yourself and you're marketing yourself.
360 degrees again, see?
Exactly that. So, you know, and when you say, is there any projects that we'd be able to see not out in the public realm?
If you happen to be in the right office space.
In the right office space.
Likely.
But that is one thing I really would like to do more is we have done some like campaigns for brands where we've created murals in public spaces, and I really enjoy that. I think because it's so close to my core, and we can do things differently, and I just love painting large scale.
It's there, isn't it? It's inside. It never leaves you. You know, whatever field of sort of life, where you've taken your life, it's always inside you. That I find, you know, the whole. If you entered into hip hop at an early age, as we did, it's kind of like those are your formative years. You know, that never leaves you. No. You know, you could be flying an airplane somewhere, but you're still a b-boy inside. You know. Exactly
that. It's being fresh and keeping it real. You know, and we did a big graffiti commission for the Wireless Festival 4 or 5 years ago, and that was really nice painting in public. And the interaction with people was just great. So that's definitely something that hopefully next year will bring to the forefront of like business aspirations, really.
So if anybody wants to sort of keep in touch, obviously you've got the website. We'll put all the links and all your socials, relevant socials, up at the end of this. But in the meantime, you know, if you do want to find out more about Mark and his ventures, be sure to check out Soulful Creative, the full website, www.co.uk or so soulfulcreative.co.uk. As I say, we'll put all these links up at the end. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the bell, like the content, hopefully, and hopefully we'll have more of this. You know, we want to sort of. The reason I wanted to get you into the studio, as I said at the beginning, is to just show the sort of the ways how we started out in this thing called hip hop and in our relevant areas, whether it was dancing, making music, or writing our names on surfaces. But we've kind of like maintained those values that we inherited and we learned, and here we are in a mature world, and you know, you're living proof of that. So thank you very much for coming along. Hope it's been good for you, and look forward to seeing you out and about, maybe in a wall somewhere or other. Who knows? Are you still sort of, you know, interested?
Absolutely.
Never leaves you, see.
Never loses me. Well, look, I've got paint on my hand.
There you go, see. He's been out already, look. He didn't tell us about that, did he? God, what? I wonder what he writes. Anyway, guys, that's it for now. Make sure, as I say, subscribe, share, get involved, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.